The stars around Earth went dark one by one. Not because they died, but because something massive blocked their light. Ships. Thousands of them. Each one bigger than anything humans had ever built. Admiral Zefkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the small blue planet below. His forearms moved across control panels with practiced ease. His species, the Kethai, had been doing this for over 200 years. Find a world. Demand surrender. Accept it. Move on. It always worked. Send the transmission, he ordered his communications officer. On Earth, every screen, every radio, every device that could receive signals suddenly came alive. The face that appeared was not human. It had gray skin, 4 yellow eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. When it spoke, translation software turned its words into every human language. I am Admiral Zefkar of the Hegemony Fleet. You are surrounded. You cannot win. You cannot escape. You can only choose how you wish to proceed. In the United Nations building in New York, President Chen Wei watched the message with her cabinet. Defense Minister Rodriguez gripped his chair so hard his knuckles turned white. The Secretary of Science, Dr. Harrison, was frantically typing on his tablet, running calculations no one wanted to see. The alien continued speaking. We have conquered 47 star systems. 47 different species now serve the hegemony. They are fed. They are housed. They work, they live. This is what we offer you. What's the alternative? Whispered the Secretary of State. The alien seemed to hear her, though that was impossible. The alternative is destruction. Complete and total. We have weapons that can crack your planet in half. We have weapons that can boil your oceans. We have weapons that can turn your atmosphere into poison. President Chen stood up slowly. Around the world, billions of people watched their screens. Children held their parents' hands. Old people remembered other wars, other threats. But nothing like this. You have 72 of your hours to decide, the alien said. Surrender and live as servants. Refuse and die as nothing. These are your choices. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. For a moment the world was silent. Then President Chen spoke. Get me every world leader. Get me every military commander. Get me every scientist who knows anything about space warfare. Do it now. The next hours were chaos. Video calls connected leaders from every nation. Generals shared intelligence reports that made grown men cry. The numbers were simple and terrible. Earth had 300 warships. The aliens had over 10,000. Earth's biggest weapon could destroy a city. The aliens' smallest weapon could destroy a continent. It's not even close, said Admiral Thompson of the Earth Defense Force. Our entire fleet together couldn't scratch one of their big ships. This isn't David versus Goliath. This is an ant versus a boot. So we surrender, said the Prime Minister of Brazil. We live as slaves, but we live. Do we? Asked President Chen. Has anyone looked at what happened to the other species they conquered? Dr. Harrison pulled up his research. I've been studying their pattern. Every species they take gets divided into 3 groups. Workers who do basic labor, specialists who maintain technology they're allowed to use, and breeders who produce the next generation. They don't allow education beyond what's needed for work. They don't allow art. They don't allow music. They don't allow books. They don't allow freedom, said Defense Minister Rodriguez quietly. Freedom doesn't matter if you're dead, snapped the Chancellor of Germany. Doesn't it? Asked Chen Wei. The debate raged for hours. Some leaders argued for surrender. Some argued for negotiation. Some argued for resistance. But as the hours passed, something strange happened. The arguments changed. My grandfather fought the Nazis, said the Prime Minister of Poland. He told me once that some things are worse than death. He said that when someone points a gun at your head and tells you to kneel, you have 2 choices. You can kneel and hope they let you live, or you can stand and make them pay for pulling the trigger. That's easy to say when it's just you, replied the President of Australia. This is 8 billion people. 8 billion human beings who could live if we just say yes. Live as what? Asked the President of Kenya. As animals, as things. Is that living? President Chen listened to every voice. She thought about her daughter Sarah, who was somewhere in the Pacific Fleet right now. She thought about her grandson, who was only 5 years old. She thought about all the children in all the schools who were probably being sent home early today. Finally, she spoke. I want to hear from our military commanders. Not about surrender. I want to hear about the other option. General Martinez of the Space Marines was the first to speak. Ma'am, if we fight, we lose. but we can make them pay. We can make them bleed. We can show them that humans don't go quietly. What would that look like? Chen asked. Scorched earth, said Admiral Thompson. We destroy everything before they can take it. Our factories, our computers, our research facilities. If they want Earth, they get a dead rock with nothing useful on it. And the people? The people fight. Every man, woman, and child who can hold a weapon. We make them pay for every building, every street, every inch of ground. We make conquest so expensive they think twice before trying it again. The room was quiet. Finally, the Secretary of State spoke. That's suicide. No, said President Chen. Suicide is killing yourself for nothing. This would be dying for something. This would be dying so that maybe somewhere someone else doesn't have to make this choice. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside she could see people in the streets. Some were running. Some were crying. Some were just standing there looking up at the sky where alien ships waited like storm clouds. I need to address the world, she said finally. Schedule it for tonight. Global broadcast. What are you going to tell them? Asked Rodriguez. The truth. All of it. What surrender means. What resistance means. What the choice really is. And then we let 8 billion people decide what it means to be human. That night, President Chen stood before the cameras. Behind her was the flag of Earth, adopted just 3 years earlier when the colonies were established. It showed a blue circle on a black background surrounded by stars. My fellow human beings, she began. Today we received an ultimatum. Surrender or die. Serve or be destroyed. Live as slaves or die as free people. She paused, looking directly into the camera. I could make this choice for you. I could sign the surrender documents and hope for the best. I could tell you that survival is more important than anything else. But I won't. Because this choice belongs to all of us. This choice defines who we are as a species. Are we the kind of people who kneel when threatened? Are we the kind of people who trade freedom for safety? Are we the kind of people who give up without a fight? Around the world, people listened. In homes and bars and schools and hospitals, 8 billion human beings heard their leader speak. I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking about your children, your parents, your loved ones. You're thinking that anything is better than death, and you're not wrong. But I want you to think about something else too. I want you to think about what kind of world your children would grow up in. A world where they're told what to think, what to say, what to do. A world where they can't read books or make art or dream of something better. A world where they're property instead of people. And I want you to think about the other species out there. The ones still free. What message do we send them? Do we tell them to give up? Do we tell them that resistance is pointless? Or do we show them that some things are worth fighting for, even if the fight is hopeless? President Chen took a deep breath. The decision is yours. All of ours. We vote tomorrow. Every human being on Earth and in the colonies gets a voice. Surrender or resist. Live as slaves or die as free people. Whatever we choose together. Whatever happens, happens to all of us. The broadcast ended. Around the world, people looked at each other and wondered what it truly meant to be human. The vote took 18 hours. Not because counting was hard, but because everyone wanted to vote. Everyone. Factory workers left their shifts to cast ballots. Farmers drove hours to reach polling stations. Children too young to vote stood with their parents watching democracy work one last time. The results came in region by region. Africa voted first as the sun rose over the continent. Then Asia. Then Europe. The Americas. The space colonies sent their votes by quantum transmission. When it was over, the numbers were clear. 7,400,000,000 votes for resistance. 600 million for surrender. President Chen stood before the cameras again, but this time she wasn't alone. Behind her stood the leaders of every nation, every colony, every settlement where humans lived. The people have spoken, she said simply. Humanity chooses to fight. She turned to Defense Minister Rodriguez. Give the order. What order, ma'am? All of them. Around the world, military bases that had been quiet for decades suddenly came alive. Nuclear silos opened for the first time since the old wars. Weapons factories that made mining equipment started making bombs instead. Shipyards that built cargo vessels began building warships. But the most important work was happening in secret. Dr. Sarah Chen, the president's daughter, worked in a hidden facility beneath the Swiss mountains. Her team called it Project Prometheus after the old myth about stealing fire from the gods. But they weren't stealing fire. They were making sure no one else could have it. Complete the data purge, she ordered. I want every computer wiped. Every hard drive destroyed. Every server melted down. If they want our technology, they get nothing. Her assistant, Dr. Kim, looked nervous. Sarah, this is our entire scientific heritage. Medical research, space technology, artificial intelligence. We're destroying centuries of progress. No, Sarah said. We're keeping it out of their hands. Better we lose it than they gain it. Across the facility, teams worked frantically. They copied critical information to small storage devices, then sent those devices on fast ships to distant star systems. If Earth died, at least some human knowledge would survive, but most of it would burn. In factories across the world, workers received new instructions. Instead of building cars or computers or clothes, they built destruction. Bombs designed not to kill aliens, but to destroy human infrastructure. Viruses designed not to attack alien computers, but to wipe human databases. The hegemony fleet watched from space, confused by what they saw. Usually, when a species chose to fight, they built weapons to attack the invaders. Humans were building weapons to attack themselves. Admiral Zefkar called his intelligence officers to the bridge. Explain this behavior. Commander Veltar, a six-armed creature from the Nexus species, pulled up readings from their scanners. Admiral, they're systematically destroying their own infrastructure. Power plants are being rigged with explosives. Communication networks are being burned. Industrial centers are being prepared for demolition. Why? Unknown, sir. No species has ever done this before. Zefkar had conquered many worlds. He had seen species try to hide their technology. He had seen them try to bargain with it. He had seen them try to use it as a weapon. But he had never seen a species prepared to destroy it rather than let it be captured. What else are they doing? Building weapons, but not the kind we expected. Their warships are being fitted with devices that seem designed to damage their own ships as much as ours. Their ground forces are practicing something they call urban warfare in their own cities. They're practicing to fight us in their own homes? Yes, sir. And they're teaching civilians to do the same. On Earth, the transformation was complete. In just 48 hours, human society had reorganized itself for one purpose: making conquest as expensive as possible. Captain Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, humanity's newest and most powerful warship. It had been completed just 6 months ago, a symbol of human engineering and hope. Now it was being prepared for a one-way mission. Sir, his weapons officer said, the charges are set. When we engage the enemy, we can trigger them at any time. The charges that will destroy our own ship? Yes, sir. Along with any enemy ship we're grappled to or close enough to. Webb nodded. It made sense in a terrible way. Human ships couldn't match alien technology in a fair fight. But if every human ship took an alien ship with it when it died, the math changed. What's our expected survival rate for the coming battle? He asked. 0%, sir. And our expected kill ratio? If everything goes according to plan, 1-to-1, maybe better. Webb smiled grimly. Those are the best odds humanity has ever faced. Around the solar system, similar conversations were happening on every human ship. Captains explained to their crews that they were going to die. Engineers explained how they would take the enemy with them. Soldiers explained how their sacrifice might matter. And nobody quit. Nobody ran. Nobody asked to be transferred to a safer assignment. On the moon, the last group of human children was being loaded onto a fast ship bound for the Alpha Centauri colony. They would carry human DNA, human culture, and human memory to the stars. If Earth died, the species would continue somewhere else. 8-year-old Tommy Chen, the president's grandson, looked back at Earth through the ship's window. His teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, knelt beside him. Will we ever go home? He asked. I don't know, sweetheart. But you'll always carry home with you, in your heart, in your memories, and the stories will tell you about what it meant to be human. Why are we fighting if we can't win? Ms. Rodriguez thought carefully about her answer. Sometimes, Tommy, winning isn't about surviving. Sometimes winning is about showing others what you believe in. We're fighting to show the universe that humans value freedom more than life. Will it matter? I think so. Somewhere out there, other people are watching what we do. If we show them that it's possible to say no to bullies, maybe they'll say no too. Back on Earth, President Chen walked through the empty halls of the United Nations building. Most of the staff had been evacuated. Only essential personnel remained, and most of them were volunteers. She found Defense Minister Rodriguez in the war room, staring at displays showing the disposition of human forces. It was not encouraging. How long do we have? She asked. The alien fleet started moving an hour ago. At their current speed, they'll reach our outer defenses in 6 hours, and then our ships will engage them at maximum range. We'll try to damage as many as possible before they break through. After that, they'll face our orbital platforms. After that, they'll face our surface defenses. How long will all of that buy us? Rodriguez looked at her with sad eyes. Maybe 12 hours. Maybe less. And then they land. Yes, ma'am. And then they find out what it's like to fight humans on their own ground. President Chen nodded. She had seen the reports from the cities. Civilians had been organized into resistance cells. Every building had been turned into a potential fortress. Every street had been prepared as a battlefield. The aliens would take Earth, but they would pay for every block. Any word from the other species in their empire? She asked. Some. We've been broadcasting everything. Our vote, our preparations, our reasons for fighting. We want the galaxy to know that surrender isn't the only option. What kind of response are we getting? Rodriguez smiled for the first time in days. Mixed. Most seem shocked that we're choosing to fight, but some seem interested. There have been small protests on a few worlds. Nothing major yet, but our message is spreading. Good. That's something at least. President Chen walked to the window and looked up at the sky. She couldn't see the alien ships yet, but she knew they were there. In a few hours, the battle for Earth would begin. In a few days, it would be over. But maybe, just maybe, what happened here would echo across the galaxy. Maybe other species would remember that a small blue planet chose to fight rather than kneel. Maybe some of them would make the same choice. Ma'am, Rodriguez said quietly. Are you sure we're doing the right thing? Chen thought about her daughter Sarah, who was somewhere underground making sure human knowledge would either survive or die completely. She thought about her grandson Tommy, who was flying toward the stars carrying the memory of what Earth used to be. I don't know, she said honestly, but I know we're doing the human thing. And sometimes that's all you can do. Outside, air raid sirens began to wail. The battle for humanity was about to begin. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter had never seen anything like this. Normally, it was empty space with floating rocks and a few mining stations. Now it was humanity's last line of defense in space. Admiral Sarah Rodriguez floated in the command center of the EDS Liberty, the flagship of Earth's combined fleet. Around her, 300 human ships waited in formation among the asteroids. They looked small and fragile compared to the alien fleet approaching them. Contact in 30 minutes, reported her tactical officer, Commander Park. Enemy fleet strength is confirmed at 8,000. 400 ships. And we have 312, Rodriguez said calmly. Those are interesting odds. Her communications officer looked up from his station. Ma'am, we're receiving broadcasts from the colonies. Proxima Centauri, Wolf 359, Taus 80. They're all asking for orders, yo. Tell them to remember us. Tell them to remember what we stood for. And tell them to keep humanity alive among the stars. Rodriguez had volunteered for this command. At 62, she was too old to run, too tired to hide, and too angry to surrender. Her husband had died in the Martian wars. Her son was somewhere below them on Earth, preparing the surface defenses. This was where she belonged. Open a channel to all ships, she ordered. Channel open, Admiral. Rodriguez took a deep breath. Across the fleet, 300 captains and 30,000 crew members listened. Today we face an enemy that thinks humans are weak. They think we'll break when the fighting gets hard. They think we'll run when the odds get bad. They think we're like every other species they've conquered. She paused, looking out at the stars where the alien fleet was approaching. They're wrong. We're not like other species. We don't fight to win. We fight because fighting is what humans do. We fight because our children are watching. We fight because the galaxy needs to know that some things are worth dying for. Around the fleet, crews checked their weapons one last time. Engineers armed the self-destruct charges that would turn each ship into a massive bomb. Marines said goodbye to families they would never see again. Remember the plan, Rodriguez continued. We don't try to survive this. We try to make them pay. Every alien ship we kill is one less ship that attacks Earth. Every alien we stop here is one less alien our people face on the ground. The tactical display showed the approaching enemy. The alien fleet was massive, organized, professional. They had done this hundreds of times before. Weapons free, Rodriguez ordered. All ships engage at maximum range. Make every shot count. The first human missiles launched when the aliens were still an hour away. Long-range nuclear warheads moving at incredible speed. designed to damage enemy ships before the real battle began. Most were intercepted by alien defenses. A few got through. The alien response was immediate and overwhelming. Beams of energy that could melt a mountain swept across space, targeting human ships. The first casualties came quickly. EDS Shanghai is gone, reported Commander Park. EDS Berlin is heavily damaged and falling back. EDS Berlin, this is Admiral Rodriguez. Can you still fight? Captain Kim's voice came back broken by static. We can fight, Admiral. Our engines are gone, but our weapons are working. Then make them count, Captain. The battle spread across millions of kilometers of space. Human ships darted between asteroids using the rocks as cover. They couldn't match alien firepower, but they were faster and harder to hit. Captain Marcus Webb brought the EDS Defiance close to a massive alien battleship. His ship was 1/10 the size of the enemy vessel, but he had advantages the aliens didn't expect. He had nothing to lose. Full ramming speed, he ordered. All power to engines. Sir, we won't survive impact, his helmsman warned. That's the idea. Wait for my signal, then detonate all charges. The Defiance accelerated toward the alien ship. Enemy weapons tore into its hull, but it kept coming. At the last second, Webb gave the order. The explosion lit up space like a new star. When the light faded, both ships were gone. Across the battle zone, similar scenes played out. Human ships traded their lives for alien vessels. Sometimes the trade was 1-for-1. Sometimes humans took multiple enemy ships with them. Admiral Zefkar watched from his command ship as the humans fought like nothing he had ever seen. His tactical officer provided constant updates. We've lost 430 ships, Admiral. The humans have lost 208. They're getting a 2-to-1 kill ratio? Zefkar couldn't believe it. How is that possible? Our ships are superior in every way. They're using suicide tactics, sir. They don't try to survive. They just try to kill us. No species does that. Survival is the first instinct of all intelligent life. Apparently not for humans, sir. Zefkar studied the battle displays. His fleet was winning. They were pushing through human defenses, destroying their ships moving toward Earth. But the cost was enormous. In 3 hours of fighting, he had lost more ships than in the previous 10 conquests combined. Order the third wave to advance. We need to break through their lines. But the humans had one more surprise. Admiral Rodriguez, her ship badly damaged but still fighting, opened a channel to all remaining human vessels. Only 83 ships were left operational. All ships execute Plan Omega. Plan Omega was humanity's final gambit. The surviving human ships didn't retreat toward Earth. Instead, they accelerated directly toward the main alien fleet, past the front lines, into the heart of enemy formation. They're not retreating, reported Zefkar's tactical officer, his voice filled with disbelief. They're attacking our main fleet directly. Impossible. They can't hope to survive that. I don't think they're trying to survive, sir. The remaining human ships smashed into the alien formation like bullets fired from a gun. They didn't try to fight ship-to-ship battles. They just accelerated to maximum speed and detonated their charges when they got close to enemy vessels. The EDS Liberty, Admiral Rodriguez's flagship, was the last ship standing. Its hull was breached in a dozen places. Half its crew was dead. But its engines still worked, and its self-destruct charges were still armed. Rodriguez aimed her ship at Zefkar's command vessel, a massive dreadnought that served as the brain of the alien fleet. This is Admiral Sarah Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. She broadcast on all frequencies. To any human listening, we held the line. We made them pay. Remember us. The Liberty's engines roared to life one final time. Zefkar watched the human ship approach. His defenses were firing, tearing the small vessel apart piece by piece. But it kept coming. Can we stop it? He asked. Unknown, Admiral. Recommend immediate evasion. No, I want to see how this ends. The Liberty struck the dreadnought's hull and exploded. The blast tore through multiple decks, killed hundreds of alien crew members and damaged critical systems. But the dreadnought survived. Zefkar pulled himself up from the deck where the impact had thrown him. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically to restore systems. Damage report, he ordered. Engines at 60%. Weapons at 40%. Communications are down. We'll need extensive repairs. And the human fleet? Destroyed, sir. All ships confirmed eliminated. Zefkar looked at the tactical display. His victory was complete. The human space fleet was gone. The way to Earth was open, but he had paid a price no species had ever forced him to pay. How many ships did we lose? 1,647 destroyed. 892 damaged beyond immediate repair. Out of 8,000? Yes, sir. Zefkar stared at the numbers. In one battle, the humans had destroyed or disabled over 30% of his fleet. 300 human ships had stopped nearly 2,500 alien vessels. Send a message to the home fleet, he ordered. Request immediate reinforcements. And send a message to High Command. Tell them that humans are not like other species. His communications officer looked confused. What should I tell them about humans, sir? Zefkar thought about Admiral Rodriguez, who had used her ship as a weapon in her final moments. He thought about Captain Webb, who had sacrificed his vessel to kill a single enemy ship. He thought about 300 human captains who had chosen certain death over possible survival. Tell them that humans don't fight to win, they fight to make you lose. As the alien fleet regrouped and began its final approach to Earth, scattered debris from human ships drifted through space, but mixed with the wreckage were small pods, each containing a message recorder. The pods were designed to survive anything and broadcast continuously. Soon they would be picked up by passing ships, by distant colonies, by species the hegemony hadn't conquered yet. Each pod contained the same message, recorded by Admiral Rodriguez before the battle began. This is Admiral Sarah Rodriguez of Earth. If you're receiving this, then you know that humans chose to fight rather than surrender. We're not special. We're not stronger or smarter than you. But we decided that some things matter more than living. We decided that freedom matters more than safety. We decided that dying on your feet is better than living on your knees. Remember us. Remember our choice. And maybe when your time comes, you'll make the same one. The pods drifted toward the outer rim of the galaxy, carrying humanity's last message to the stars. The alien fleet limped toward Earth like a wounded animal. What had started as 8,400 ships was now less than 7,000. The rest floated in the asteroid belt, destroyed by humans who refused to die quietly. Admiral Zefkar stood in his damaged command center, watching the blue planet grow larger on his screens. His uniform was torn from the battle. His second pair of arms hung uselessly at his sides, broken when the human admiral had rammed her ship into his. Status report, he ordered. Commander Veltar checked his instruments with his 6 arms moving in efficient patterns. We have 6,800 operational ships. Another 500 are damaged but mobile. The rest are either destroyed or too damaged to continue. And our assault forces? Ready for deployment, sir. But the humans appear to be implementing the same tactics they used in space. Zefkar looked at the readings from Earth's surface. Every major city showed signs of preparation for siege warfare. Industrial centers had been destroyed by their own people. Communication networks had been severed. Power plants had been demolished. They're destroying their own infrastructure, he said in disbelief. Yes, sir. Our intelligence estimates they've eliminated 60% of their manufacturing capacity. Whatever they can't use to fight us, they're making sure we can't use either. This made no sense to Zefkar. Every other species had tried to preserve their civilization during conquest. They hoped that surrender would allow them to keep their way of life. Humans seemed determined to leave nothing behind. Begin landing operations. Target the major population centers first. Sir, recommend caution. Our scouts report extensive defensive preparations in all urban areas. What kind of preparations? They've turned their cities into mazes, sir. Every street has been blocked or trapped. Every building has been fortified. They've positioned weapons on rooftops, in sewers, and subway tunnels. It's like they're planning to fight for every room. Zefkar had conquered worlds before. Sometimes the locals resisted. But they usually focused their defenses around government centers or military bases. They tried to protect important things. Humans seem to be protecting everything. The first wave of alien troops landed outside New York City. They expected to face organized military resistance. Instead, they found empty streets and silent buildings. Major Kesevar led the 47th Assault Battalion toward the city center. His soldiers moved carefully, expecting ambushes. What they found was worse than ambushes. They found traps. The first building they entered exploded when they reached the 3rd floor. Not from alien weapons, but from human bombs. The humans had rigged their own buildings to kill anyone who tried to occupy them. Command, this is Major Kesevar. The humans are using their own structures as weapons. Clarify, Major. They've booby-trapped everything, sir. Buildings, vehicles, even furniture. They're not trying to preserve anything for after the war. Similar reports came from landing zones around the world. In London, alien troops found that the humans had flooded the underground tunnels and electrified the water. In Tokyo, every skyscraper had been turned into a vertical fortress. In Cairo, the humans had collapsed entire city blocks rather than let them be captured intact. But the real shock came when the aliens encountered actual human defenders. Sergeant First Class Maria Santos crouched in the ruins of what used to be a shopping mall in Mexico City. Around her, 24 civilians held weapons they barely knew how to use. Above them, alien aircraft searched for targets. "Remember the plan," she whispered to her team. "We don't try to win. We try to make them pay. Every alien we kill here is one less alien somewhere else." Her team consisted of a school teacher, a construction worker, a nurse, 2 teenagers, and an old man who claimed to have fought in the water wars 50 years ago. None of them were soldiers. All of them had volunteered. When the aliens came, Santos triggered the first trap. An explosion brought down part of the ceiling, crushing 3 alien soldiers. Then her team opened fire. The battle lasted 6 minutes. When it was over, all the humans were dead. But they had killed 12 aliens and wounded 8 more. The aliens needed an entire platoon to clear one small building. Major Kesvar reported to his commanders. Human resistance is unlike anything in our experience. They're not trying to survive combat. They're trying to maximize our casualties even at the cost of their own lives. Explain. They use suicide tactics constantly. Explosive charges, ramming attacks, deliberate martyrdom. A single human civilian will charge at our soldiers with a bomb strapped to their chest. We've never seen anything like it. Across Earth, the pattern repeated. Humans didn't fight like a conquered people trying to preserve their lives. They fought like people who had already accepted death and were trying to make it count. In the underground bunkers beneath Geneva, President Chen Wei received reports from around the world. The news was uniformly terrible and somehow encouraging. "New York is gone," reported General Martinez. "But the aliens paid for every block. Our estimate is that they lost 3,000 troops taking the city." London? Still fighting in some sectors. The Thames Barrier project worked. They flooded half the city and now the aliens have to fight building by building in waist-deep water. Tokyo? The vertical defense strategy is working better than expected. They've taken the lower floors of most buildings, but every floor costs them casualties. At current rates, they'll need 6 months to clear the city. President Chen listened to the reports and felt a strange mixture of pride and sorrow. Her people were dying by the millions, but they were making the aliens pay a price no other species had ever demanded. "Ma'am," General Martinez said quietly, "we're getting reports from other worlds in the hegemony. Word of our resistance is spreading." "What kind of reports?" "Protests. Small ones but growing. The Volari system had a work stoppage yesterday. 3 planets in the Nexus region reported technical difficulties that shut down production for 6 hours. And something big is happening in the Kethai home system." Despite everything, President Chen smiled. "They're watching." "Yes, ma'am. The whole galaxy is watching humans die fighting instead of living on their knees." 3 days after the invasion began, Admiral Zefkar met with his ground commanders in a temporary headquarters outside the ruins of Berlin. The reports he heard made him wish he had never found Earth. "Casualties?" he asked. General Thakmar, a veteran of 20 conquests, consulted his datapad with all 4 of his hands. 43,000 dead, 116,000 wounded. At current rates, we'll need 8 months to completely pacify the planet. 8 months? Our longest previous conquest took 6 weeks. Humans are different, sir. Every other species fought to protect their leaders, their capitals, their important facilities. Once we captured those, resistance collapsed. Humans fight to protect everything. Every neighborhood, every building, every room. What about their leadership? We've targeted every known government facility. But humans seem to have distributed their command structure. Local leaders keep fighting even when their superiors are dead. Zefkar rubbed his temples with his lower arms. What about infrastructure? Are we capturing anything useful? Negative, sir. They've destroyed almost everything of value. Power plants, factories, research facilities, computer networks. If we can't use it to fight them, they make sure we can't use it at all. This was the part that bothered Zefkar most. Other species preserved their civilization in hopes of keeping some of it after conquest. Humans seemed determined to leave nothing behind. A communication officer approached. "Admiral, urgent message from High Command." Zefkar read the message and felt his confidence drain away. "Other systems are reporting unrest. Minor so far, but spreading. High Command wants to know when we'll finish here and be available for reassignment. What should I tell them, sir? Zefkar looked out at the smoking ruins of Berlin. In the distance, he could hear explosions as his troops fought building by building through the city. Similar battles were happening in every major population center on Earth. Tell them that humans have redefined the meaning of conquest. Tell them that we're fighting a species that treats death as a tactical option. That night, Zefkar walked through the temporary medical facility where his wounded soldiers were being treated. He had never seen so many casualties from a single campaign. Soldiers who had fought on dozens of worlds looked shaken by what they had experienced on Earth. He stopped beside a young trooper whose leg had been shattered by a human bomb. "How are you feeling, soldier?" "Confused, sir. On other worlds, the locals tried to avoid us. Here, they actively seek us out to die fighting. I've never seen anything like it. Do you think we should continue the campaign?" The soldier thought carefully before answering. "Sir, we'll win eventually. We have more troops, better weapons, superior technology. But the cost? What about the cost? Every human we kill takes some of us with them. At this rate, we'll conquer a dead planet with a decimated fleet. And for what? There's nothing left here worth taking." Zefkar continued his walk through the medical facility. Everywhere he looked, he saw the price of conquering humans. His soldiers were brave and professional, but they were fighting an enemy that didn't play by the rules of warfare. Most species fought to win. Humans fought to make their enemies lose. 6 months later, Admiral Zefkar stood in the ruins of what used to be the United Nations building in New York. The room where human leaders once debated was now his temporary headquarters. Outside, the city smoldered under alien occupation. He had won. Technically, Earth was conquered. The human military was destroyed. Their government was gone. Their cities were rubble. The planet that had once been blue and green from space now looked gray and brown, scarred by months of fighting, but victory felt like defeat. "Final casualty report," he ordered his aide. "Commander Veltar, human casualties are estimated at 7,400,000,000, essentially total. Alien casualties stand at 437,000 dead, 912,000 wounded." Zefkar absorbed the numbers. Nearly 1,000,000 casualties to conquer one small planet, more than his species had lost in their entire previous expansion. "And what did we gain?" Veltar hesitated. "The planet itself, sir, but the infrastructure is 96% destroyed. Industrial capacity is 0. The population that could have provided labor is essentially extinct. Economic value of the conquest is negligible. We spent 1,000,000 soldiers to capture a dead rock." "Yes, sir. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what had happened in the rest of the galaxy while Earth burned." A communication officer approached. "Admiral, urgent priority message from High Command." Zefkar read the message and felt his remaining confidence crumble. Rebellions had broken out in 17 star systems. Species that had been peacefully conquered for generations were suddenly remembering how to fight. "Sir," the communication officer continued, "we're also receiving strange broadcasts from across hegemony space." "What kind of broadcasts?" "Testimonials, sir. Messages from conquered species talking about something called the human example. They're saying that if humans could choose death over slavery, maybe other species can too." Zefkar closed his eyes. This was what he had feared from the beginning. Humans hadn't just chosen to die fighting. They had chosen to die publicly, broadcasting their resistance across the galaxy. They had turned their extinction into a lesson for other species. "Show me the reports from the rebellions." The first report came from the Volari system, where 6 billion people had suddenly stopped working. Not violently. They just stopped. Factories shut down. Ships stopped flying. Entire worlds went silent. The hegemony had sent troops to force them back to work. The Volari had responded by destroying their own infrastructure, just like humans had done on Earth. The second report came from the Nexus colonies. The 6 armed species that had been conquered 50 years ago had risen up across 12 worlds simultaneously. They were using human tactics, suicide attacks, scorched earth policies, and complete willingness to die rather than submit. The third report was the most disturbing. The Kethai, Zefkar's own species, were experiencing protests on their homeworld. His own people were questioning whether conquest was worth the price they had paid on Earth. "How widespread is this?" he asked. "Unknown, sir, but it's growing." Intelligence estimates that 43 systems are experiencing some form of unrest. Most are citing human resistance as inspiration. Zefkar walked to the window and looked out at the dead city. In the distance, he could see a small monument that human survivors had built before they died. It was simple, a stone marker with words carved in multiple languages. We were here. We were free. We chose our fate. He had ordered it destroyed several times, but new ones kept appearing. Even in death, humans were defiant. A new message arrived from High Command. Zefkar read it with growing dread. Admiral Zefkar, you are hereby ordered to redeploy immediately to the Volari system to suppress rebellion. The Earth pacification campaign is considered complete. Complete. As if there was anything left to complete. As if conquering a cemetery was an achievement. But he had other problems now. Problems that had grown directly from the human campaign. Sir, his intelligence officer reported, we're intercepting communications between rebel groups across the galaxy. They're using human phrases. On what kind of phrases? Death before slavery. Some things are worth dying for. Better to burn than to kneel. And something they keep repeating. Remember Earth. Zefkar realized what had happened. Humans had lost every battle, died to the last civilian, been completely destroyed as a species. But somehow they had won a war he hadn't even realized was being fought. They had won the war for the soul of the galaxy. That night, alone in his quarters, Zefkar accessed the archives of human broadcasts. During their final weeks, humans had transmitted everything. Their history, their culture, their reasons for fighting. They had wanted the galaxy to understand what they were dying for. He watched President Chen Wei's final address, given from the bunkers beneath Geneva just days before her death. To any species listening to this, know that we chose this. We weren't forced into extinction. We weren't surprised by it. We chose it because some things matter more than survival. Freedom matters more than life. Dignity matters more than safety. Hope matters more than despair. She had looked directly into the camera, as if she could see across space and time to every alien who would watch this recording. We know that many of you live under conquest. We know that many of you have accepted slavery to avoid death. We don't judge you for that choice. Survival is the first instinct of all life, but we want you to know that there is another choice, and if enough people make that choice, even the mightiest empire can fall. The recording continued with scenes from the final battle, humans fighting in the ruins of their cities, children barely old enough to walk helping to build barricades, old people who could barely stand volunteering for suicide missions. And throughout it all, they had been broadcasting, teaching, showing the galaxy what resistance looked like. Zefkar turned off the recording and composed a report for High Command. He tried to explain what humans had accomplished through their destruction. He tried to make them understand that Earth had not been a conquest but a catastrophe, but he knew they wouldn't listen. The hegemony had conquered dozens of species. They understood planets and fleets and industrial capacity. They didn't understand ideas. They didn't understand that humans had weaponized their own extinction. 3 days later, Zefkar received new orders. He was being reassigned to suppress the rebellion in the Volari system. Another admiral would be sent to deal with the Nexus uprising. A third would handle the Kethai protests. The hegemony was dividing its forces to fight fires across the galaxy. Fires that had been lit by the burning of Earth. As his ship departed from Earth's orbit, Zefkar took one last look at the planet. It was dead, gray, silent, but somehow it felt more dangerous now than when it had been alive and fighting. In the depths of space, automated human probes continued their journey toward distant stars. Each probe carried the complete record of human civilization and the story of their final choice. Those probes would reach other star systems in decades or centuries, carrying humanity's message to species the hegemony had never contacted. The message was simple: you don't have to kneel. On the bridge of his ship, Zefkar received a communication from his replacement on Earth. Admiral, we found something interesting in the human archives. What is it? A plan, sir. They called it Project Phoenix. It seems humans expected their extinction, but they prepared for it to mean something. Explain. They designed their resistance to be a template, sir. Every tactic they used, every strategy they employed, every psychological element of their campaign has been documented and broadcast. They've essentially created an instruction manual for rebellion. Zefkar felt a chill run through his forearms. They planned this. The entire campaign. They planned to lose. Not to lose, sir, to teach. They turned their extinction into a university course on resistance. As his ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying him toward another rebellion inspired by human sacrifice, Zefkar finally understood what had happened on Earth. Humans hadn't fought for victory. They had fought for something more dangerous than victory. They had fought for inspiration. And inspiration, unlike planets or fleets or industrial capacity, could not be conquered. It could only spread. Behind him, Earth continued its silent orbit around the sun. Empty. Dead. Victorious. In systems across the galaxy, species that had never heard of humans began to whisper about the small blue planet that chose to burn rather than bow. They whispered about the species that discovered something more powerful than weapons or numbers or superior technology. They discovered that some victories are only possible through defeat, and in the growing darkness of rebellion that spread through hegemony space, the ghost of humanity laughed. They had lost everything, including their lives. They had also won everything, including the future. The reckoning had begun.